Aboriginal owners of country throughout Australia and recognises the continuing connection to lands, waters and communities. We pay our respects to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures and to elders past and present. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples should be aware that this series of live streams contains images or names of people who have passed away.
The Tasmanian government has reissued an ongoing tender that currently has a panel of 14 members to do code of conduct investigations on behalf of the Tasmanian government in relation to inappropriate conduct, inappropriate use of power, inappropriate behaviour, inappropriate application of process, policy and procedure, inappropriate use of resources, sexual harassment, racial discrimination, etc., etc. There are currently 14 organisations on that panel. 3 of those 14 are not Tasmanian based, so this is open to anyone that wants to get it. This is a $2 million contract ongoing over the next 3 years. 14 members currently on the panel. 3 of them are not Tasmanian. A couple of the members on the panel have no lawyers, no licensed private investigators and no loss adjusters. So anyone can be a backyard operator, can put their hand up here to win this contract on behalf of the Tasmanian government. Having organisations already on the panel who are not licensed private investigators, and they are required to be in Tasmania, they are not lawyers and they are not loss adjusters, means anyone can apply for this. There's currently organisations there that have none of those. I don't know how you go if you're a public servant and you're accused of something inappropriate and you're being investigated by an unqualified, unlicensed, non-lawyer, non-loss adjuster person, but I guess anyone who wants to go for it can put their hand up, apply. It's on the Tasmanian Tenders website. It's worth $2 million and it's ongoing for the next 3 years. So it was first awarded in 2023 and they're awarding it again now, and that tender is open in Tasmania today. It's the 14th of December 2025. Get on that website and apply for it. Hi investigators, Mike Evans from the Australian Security Academy with episode 173 of Spy Curious. We're here today to look at our live learning for Victorian Licensing Regulation Division, our requirement and commitment to that live learning for our students in the subject Work Effectively in Investigative Services. That's the unit we're looking at today for our students in relation to licensing in Victoria. In particular, we're looking at element of competency number 1 in Work Effectively in Investigative Services for our commitment to our live training, which is interpret and apply legal and procedural requirements for investigative services. In particular, identify, review legal procedural requirements governing investigative services in the jurisdiction of operation. So that means this is for Victoria. That's why we have to do the live learning. Everybody else can study it in their own time online and don't have to do this. But that one, that element of competency says in Victoria, that's what you've got to do. G'day, Andrew. How you going, mate? Great to see you. You're in New South Wales. Thanks for dropping in, buddy. Really good of you to say that. So anyway, we're looking specifically at Victoria and Work Effectively in Investigative Services and the jurisdiction. So it's been now 7 days since a licensed private investigator based in Queensland, who is a licensed private investigator in Victoria, was arrested and charged with money laundering. So that's what's happened at 7 days. What happens when you are a licensed investigator in Victoria and you're charged with an indictable offence? That's one where you're going to go to prison if you're found guilty. And at this stage, there are allegations, no one's been found guilty. You must let the Chief Commissioner of the Victorian Police know within 7 days that you have been charged. So where does it say that? How do you know you've got to do that? It's in the Victorian Private Security Act 2004. Now, it's 2023. There's been amendments, but that is the act where this is referenced. And in particular, it says in there, if at any time during the course of private security registration, the holder of registration, a natural person or close associate of the holder, or the holder is a body corporate, that means they're a company, the nominated person or officer of the body corporate is charged with an indictable offence, the holder, close associate, nominated person or other, as the case may be, must notify the Chief Commissioner in writing within 7 days of being charged with the offence with which the person has been charged and the date and place of hearing, which is going to be the 3rd of February on the Gold Coast in 2023. G'day, Jamie. Good to see you, mate. Hope you're going well. You look very busy on Facebook this week, so getting around. Good on you. So the holder of that licence, person on the right there, who's the licensed private investigator in Victoria, has to tell the Chief Commissioner of Police that he is being charged in relation to money laundering, and that's what he's got to tell the Chief Commissioner of Police about. Now, there's his licences here. So Richard's got a crowd control licence, a private investigator licence, security guard licence, and a private security trainer licence. Now, really complicating this and making this particularly messy and difficult for the Licensing and Regulation Division is Richard also owns an approved training organisation in Victoria called ISTA Proprietary Limited, which teaches security guards. Even making that more complicated is they have franchises. Now, under the security rules down in Victoria, security training rules, you're not allowed to subcontract out any training. I'm not saying it has been subcontracted out, but there'll be a training agreement between NSTCA and any franchisee in relation to that. And I'm sure over the last 7 days that anyone that's a franchisee of NSTA in relation to this will be going through that agreement very thoroughly to find out where they stand, because during the bail hearing on the Gold Coast, the defence lawyer for the accused, who has the allegations of money laundering against him, he said he's operating a training company, NSTA, which included providing training for security in the aviation industries, and he was likely to lose his firearms training licence and security licence. Likely. Now, he hasn't been found guilty. These are allegations. In Victoria, you apply for a security guard licence, private investigator licence, you've been charged with any offence, you will not get your licence. So historically, the accused has got those licences down there. What are the Victorian Police LRD going to do? Well, what they do is on that notification, it must be within 7 days of those charges being laid, right? Must be within 7 days. If it's 8 days, it's not going to fly in Victoria. They must let them know, all right? Any time during the course of holding that private security licence, they're charged an indictable offence, they must let them know. It will go to the Victorian Police Chief Commissioner, that notification, and they will then undertake a Chief Commissioner's disciplinary inquiry. Now, what does that mean? That means the Private Security Act, which governs what happens, the rules and regulations, and is the referable criteria in Victoria for something that is alleged to have happened or been done, the Chief Commissioner is going to read that part of the Act. Well, I'm sure the Chief Commissioner, she or he knows that Act off by heart, but they are going to apply the rules of that Act. And they apply it without favour or without fear.
There have been absolute hero ex-police officers in Victoria that have run registered training organisations and done things that were just inexcusable as part of those registered training organisations. They had them shut down straight away. This is really messy for the Licensing Regulation Division. They've got a private investigator and owner of an RTO in one hit. They've got franchisees involved in this. And they've got to do this without bias, without fear, and they've got to do it fairly. They've got to give the accused person a chance to explain themselves. Now, they might have a twin brother. Easy, it's explained. Okay, it might be a complete mistake and easy, everything's fine. Everybody keeps their licenses, their RTO continues on training. There's no mess, there's no problem. It's easily explained. There are other issues here as well. In relation to it, with the charge of the money laundering, there's been 29 counts of it involving a large amount of money. So the magistrate said this is a very serious offence that can 25 years in prison. So the Victorian Police are going to have a really hard look at this, and they are going to apply the Act to this matter. What happens to the students that are currently studying at the RTO if it, worst case scenario, gets shut down on the charge? And you can't get a license if you're charged with something. They won't give it to you. As soon as you tick that box that says you're charged with something in your application, you're out. So can you keep a license and keep an approved RTO? Do you get wriggle room for that? Why? When the accused own solicitor at the bail application said it's most likely he's going to lose his firearm licence and security licence, the accused is right. I'm sorry, the solicitor's right. So whatever is in that notification that's required within 7 days, there's going to have to be a very good explanation for that to hold up. Now, I don't know how many people are currently studying at that RTO. The LRD and ASQA, the regulator, will probably make arrangements for them to complete their study elsewhere. So this is a real mess. If you are a licensed investigator or security guard and you come under the Private Security Act 2004, you go back to your training in your training course, wherever you studied, and you must know in relation to work effectively in investigative services, what in the first part is how to interpret and apply legal and procedural requirements for investigative services and identify and review legal and procedural requirements governing investigative services in the jurisdiction of operation. Victoria. That's the nationally recognised qualification that said that. The Victorian Police know it says that. They've got a copy of the course where it says that for the 3 organisations that teach investigative services in Victoria, and there'll be a similar one for security guards. So if you are tempted to open up 5 bank accounts in the names of people who have something to do with your organisation for job applications or whatever it was, go and take large sums of money and place it into those bank accounts under those false names without those 5 people knowing, you're in double trouble as well as money laundering. So this is really messy. The Victorian Police, they will do the right thing by the industry. They will do the right thing by the students, and they will do the right thing by the Victorian public, who have a very high expectation of the rules being applied as they are in the Act to everybody equally. The Victorian Police most recently have tried to fix an issue down there that's causing long delays in the registration of trainers for registered training organisations in the security industry. And they're doing a great job at the Victorian Police trying to sort these things out, get rid of double up red tape that exists currently, and it only makes it harder when investigators or security guards or whoever get involved in money laundering, stain on the industry. So the Victorian Police, you, the student, can rely on the fact that they will investigate this. They will give the person a fair hearing. They know that within 7 days, they've got to, under the Private Security Act, notify the Chief Commissioner. The Chief Commissioner will then instruct his staff to undertake a disciplinary hearing. The staff at the Licensing Regulation Division will write to the person and say, okay, thank you for letting us know. Can you give us an explanation in writing, please? What happened? And of course, that explanation will be sent to them and they will make a decision on it. If there's no explanation, and they will give the person 28 days to respond, so their lawyer can check the letter before they send it out. That's fair. You can't get much fairer than that. And I'll tell you what, whatever they respond with is going to have to be exactly the same in February at the hearing when they go in there for their defence with that. This is a triple mess. The Victoria Police didn't invite it. All right. It's a licensed security guard, investigator and trainer that's gone and got themselves caught doing it. And now the Victorian Police have to act on it. So that's what's happening. That's what you must understand as a student is you learn about it in your course. It's there. It's the first thing you learn. Work effectively in the vest. It's your first unit of study. It's about the jurisdiction you're in Victoria, and the act that applies to you is the Private Security Act 2004, and that Chief Commissioner's powers are enormous. Your career can be over with a no from the Chief Commissioner about something you did. Now, it's not about speeding fines. It's not about owing some overdue money for 6 weeks or something like that. It's about an indictable offence. That's one that carries a term of imprisonment. In this case, the magistrate was loath to give bail on it because the seriousness of the 30 charges will result in potential 25 years imprisonment just on the money laundering, and that's got nothing to do with opening the false bank accounts where the money was deposited into. That's extra on top. 25 years is a heck of a long time if you get full whack. I don't think many people would ever get full whack on it. So they might be lucky and just get 15, 1 year longer than murder. Who knows? We'll find out on the 6th of February in relation to that, and we'll monitor what the Victorian Police LRD are doing in relation to it. And they're very good at the Victorian Police LRD. They do it in an unbiased manner, they do it fairly, and they do it by the book. And if it continues to be licensed and this RTO continues to keep operating, the LRD will have a transparent reason, and that might be, well, these are allegations. Okay, we've knocked back other people in relation to charges on the application process. We'll wait to February to say, who knows? It's Chief Commissioner's decision. It's not any one individual's other than the Chief Commissioner at the Victorian Police LRD. And they will make that decision on behalf of the reputation or risk of the industry and the risk to the students and the public in general. So that's the update. That's what you must keep in mind when you're operating as a licensed investigator in Victoria or a security guard, whatever. If you are charged with an indictable offence, you let them know. As bad as that is, you've got to be upfront and let them know. If you don't let them know, there'll be penalty points for that, and you'll lose your licence automatically without even having a chance to defend yourself. I'm Mike Evans from the Australian Security Academy. We'll be back on Friday with episode 174 of Spy Curious. You've been watching episode 173. We'll see you on Friday. I look forward to it. Thanks for watching.
작전 종료. 전원 복귀할 것.
You can study surveillance or factual investigation in class February 9th, 10th and 11th with the Australian Security Academy in Melbourne in 2026. This includes a full half day of OSINT investigation for locating subjects and factual investigation as well as surveillance investigation. You'll hear from licensed Victorian experts who are experienced in investigations and teach you the proper techniques that will earn you an income as a licensed investigator in Victoria conducting civil investigations. No criminal investigations are referred to during this program. They have no relevance. If you only have done criminal surveillance, this is the program that you need to do because you can't RPL through civil surveillance. See you in Melbourne on February 9th, 10th and 11th, 2026. The Academy team is looking forward to seeing you there.
And they sound really convincing. And they've got all these statements. And they've got all this knowledge that you don't have. And you'll never be good enough, but they are. Don't believe it for 1 nanosecond.
Just before Christmas in 2022, I was hard at work when the telephone rang. Australian Security Academy, Michael Evans speaking. On the other end of that phone call was a very strange man making a very strange inquiry. Now, having conducted teaching investigations for 23 years, I know what people inquire about and I know how they sound and they act when they've got a genuine inquiry. And I've had 3 that certainly weren't genuine and they stood out by the guilty nature of the person on the other end. And this guy was a classic. He gave his name and he asked really strange questions, which were odd, about studying CPP 30619 Certificate 3 in Investigative Services. It was a short phone call, thank God. And I hung up the phone and thought, that's pretty weird. Quite strange. So when you're interacting with me on the telephone, you interact with the CEO of the company. You don't speak to a marketing service in Brazil or one in some other country where they answer the telephone and handle inquiries and don't know what they're talking about. If you want to study something, security risk management, personal vetting, diploma of government fraud control, you speak to me and I tell you what it's all about. And I know what people ask. This guy was strange. I hung up the phone and his phone number was there on the screen. I could see it. I thought nothing more about it because I speak to about 50 people a day on the telephone. You try and ring me up, it's impossible to get me. Then an email came through to me about 2 weeks later from the Victorian Police Licensing Regulation Division. And I thought, oh no, what have I done now? What have I done this time? And it was a lovely, polite email handled really well. And it said, dear Mr. Evans, hope you're well. Can you confirm that this is one of your certifications you've issued? Now, every certification I've ever issued in the form that it had to be at that time is registered with the LRD. And it looks like this. It's got your name on it. It's got my signature on the bottom. Now, I've signed over 22,000 of these things, and my signatures never look the same on any of them, all right? But it's got an indicative idea of what my signature is. So, as you saw in that document, it wasn't on Australian Security Academy letterhead.
It did not have my signature on it. It did not have how the LRD require the statement of results to look. The LRD use statements of results. They only require a one-page one, and the fake one was one page. That was about as good as they got. Anyway, the LRD asked me if that qualification was real or fake. I wrote back to them and said, look, that's a fake. And they said, thank you very much. And I said, I got an inquiry of a guy by the same name. He didn't use a secure phone number where I couldn't identify him. The guy had his name on his phone number. I went back through my phone calls, which was quite a few, and I found it. And I took a screenshot of it and I sent it to the Victorian Police. They said, thank you. They don't give anything away. Their police officers are very kind and very good about it and very polite about it. And I found that they handled that very well indeed, extremely well. They do at the Licensing Regulation Division in Victoria a very professional job in understaffed, underfunded, difficult and really intense circumstances. They do a great job at the LRD. So coming back to the issue of a false statement, what is that all about? But this week in Victoria, in the Victorian Police's Private Security Bulletin, which came out this week to everybody in the email, they identified that they had fraudulent certificates issued, and they've made 8 arrests as a result, and they are expecting to make other arrests. So what's the big deal about false certificates and presenting fake certificates for a private investigator licence or a security licence? Well, there are penalties for false and misleading statements and particulars, and those penalties are quite severe. I'll get rid of the banner. And if you issue a fake certificate, or if you put yourself out to be a fake LRD private investigator trainer with a qualifications certificate 4 in training and assessment and hold a CPP 30619 certificate 3 in investigative services, and you're not approved by the LRD and you don't have 5 years training experience, and you teach CPP 30619 certificate 3 in investigative services, you're providing false and misleading information. So here we've got a fake certificate. There are other ways of doing it. And the maximum penalty for that is 60 penalty units. So how much is a penalty unit worth in Victoria if you receive a penalty unit for supplying false and misleading information to a state government department? $184.92 up until the 30th of June 2023, when I'm sure it will go up. 60 penalty units, $184.90 each. What does that add up to? It's too late in the week to bother calculating that. It is $11,095.20. That's a lot of money. So if you provide false statements, or you put yourself out to be a trainer without a certificate 4 in training and assessment, a CPP 30619 certificate 3 in investigative services, and you fraudulently present yourself as an investigation instructor in Victoria, you are up for potentially $11,095.20 in penalty units. If you've got accomplices that are doing the same, both of them are going to be up for it too. So the best thing to do is not provide false and misleading information via application to present yourself as a trainer, application to present yourself as an investigator, application to present yourself as a security guard or firearms person. Don't do it. The penalties are expensive. Don't even think about it. You've been watching Episode 190 of Spy Curious, where we warn you about fraudulent activity by fraudsters in Certificate 3 in Investigative Services training all around Australia.
This is Investigative Services, Government and Civil Job Vacancy of 2026. The Australian Security Academy, Registered Training Organisation 30547, since 2001 and now in its 25th year of teaching and assessing investigations, is seeking a specialist RTO assessor for civil, government and fraud investigations. The Australian Security Academy is a respected, compliance-focused, registered training organisation committed to professionalising the investigative and compliance sectors. We deliver nationally recognised training to professionals working across civil insurance investigation agencies, government regulators and departments in workers' compensation and fraud control, as well as regulatory compliance. We champion high compliance standards and foster a supportive and professional remote team environment. The proof of that is in the support from the government and private sectors and civil investigation sectors in Australia. This is a part-time specialist role for a registered training organisation assessor. You do not have to do any teaching. You are just simply assessing returned assessments. We are seeking an experienced and highly motivated assessor to join our team on a 6-month, 3-day-per-week contract with the possibility of extension. This critical role is perfect for a professional seeking a flexible part-time commitment. Your primary focus will be on remotely assessing student submissions for Certificate 3 and Certificate 4 qualifications in government and investigative services. This is more than just an assessment. You'll play a vital role in capability development by providing supportive, constructive and compliant feedback that ensures learner success and RTO integrity. When you mark a student as competent in that assessment, it means that they can do it to the standard required in the workplace. Prior experience in investigative services or related fields is an essential requirement for this position. So what will you be doing? You'll be providing assessment and feedback. You'll conduct timely and compliant assessment on nationally recognised training, provide detailed, supportive and corrective feedback on student submissions. So if the student hasn't hit the mark, you're going to guide them as to how they can do it. You'll maintain meticulous compliant training and assessment documentation in line with RTO requirements and the Vocational Education and Training Quality Framework. You'll actively participate in assessment validation, design and review processes on a weekly basis. You'll represent the Australian Security Academy professionally and champion a culture of compliance and learner success within the industry. It is absolutely essential that you have the following qualifications: a current TAE 40116 or TAE 40112 Certificate 4 in Training and Assessment. That's not negotiable. You must have that. You must have a Certificate 3 in Investigative Services, CPP 30619, and you must also have a current private investigator licence in Victoria and or New South Wales. A minimum of 3 years extensive experience providing compliant assessment and constructive feedback within an RTO environment is required. What also will be advantageous for you if you have experience in VET, student management systems like VETRAC, and learning management systems such as Moodle. You'll have demonstrated assessment validation and RTO audit experience. You must have maintained your continuous professional development currency in vocational education and training. If you are a professional, highly reliable and compliance-driven assessor with the required industry expertise and looking for a flexible part-time contract, we encourage you to apply. It's been offered at $70 per hour on a 6-month contract. You can work from anywhere in Australia that has internet access. We look forward to seeing your application in the near future. Code of conduct investigations within government departments include someone gives someone an inappropriate look or an eye roll, offences taken, and before you know it, things get out of the hand and the workplace becomes toxic. Internal dispute resolution, grievance and complaint investigation, inappropriate conduct,
inappropriate use of power, inappropriate application of process, policy and procedure, and inappropriate use of resources. Code of conduct investigations can also include sexual harassment investigations and racial discrimination investigations. During all the Australian Security Academy Certificate 4 and Diploma of Government investigations, I personally conduct the Code of Conduct investigation component of those programs. Participants in the program will learn all aspects of conducting Code of Conduct investigations internally within government departments or as a consultant to a government department or even a corporation. In the course of your investigation, you will conduct records of interview with the complainant and the respondent, and you'll also conduct interviews and take statements from the witnesses in the matter. So how does it come to this? People in the workplace are there to conduct their work. They're not there to fight and disagree and argue with each other. If you work for the taxation department, the duty of your work is to tax people and enforce the tax legislation and ensure people pay their tax. It's not that you're there paid to argue with other people in your workplace about issues in the workplace. So part of the focus of the investigation is not just to pin inappropriate behaviour or conduct on people, it's about making a finding, coming to a conclusion, assisting the workplace to then rebuild and move forward positively and get on with what they do in the workplace. Code of conduct investigations can be a positive thing. They help to redirect people's focus onto what the organisation is meant to be doing. Someone sends an email, someone makes a comment. Before the matter develops into a full-scale psychological or psychiatric injury, the corporation or organisation will want to intervene and, as a result of the grievance and complaint process, institute an investigation to find out what is going on. As an investigator in a Code of Conduct investigation, you are not a police officer, you are not an advocate, you are not an interrogator. Your role is to find facts in highly emotional situations and report those facts in relation to the outcome of your investigation. In one simple 10-minute presentation, I will show you how to get to the bottom of a Code of Conduct issue in the workplace in regards to inappropriate behaviour, inappropriate conduct, racial discrimination, sexual harassment, inappropriate use of power, inappropriate use of resources, and a range of other inappropriate activities. I look forward to seeing you in an Australian Security Academy Government Investigation Program very soon. I'm Mike Evans from the Australian Security Academy.
The Australian Security Academy acknowledges the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognises the continuing connection to lands, waters and communities. We pay our respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures and to elders past and present. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples should be aware that this series of live streams contains images or names of people who have passed away.
Okay, so when a person makes a grievance or complaint of place, they're saying, oh, this person sexually harassed me, or they're bullying me, or they're whatever they're doing. The person has a worldview that I'm being bullied, I'm being sexually harassed, I'm being racially discriminated, I'm being ostracised or whatever. The organisation will look after me. Now, that is true. That's what we want. That's the person's view. So they put in a grievance in relation to that. So that's what they do. Now, that's the claimant's view in relation to how they're being treated at work. Now, the organisation has a completely different view. They go, all right, if Mike Evans is being bullied and harassed, where's the evidence? That's the way they look at it. So they get you to come in
as the investigator to have a look at what evidence exists to substantiate his claim. Now, our theme as an organisation is 100% live contributor to evidence-based investigation, and I hope that's our theme for every year. So objectivity, confidentiality, procedural fairness, we'll talk about that on day 3 in 2 weeks' time. Natural justice, we'll talk about that on day 3 in 2 weeks' time. Your objection against complaints against you and how you go about an investigation. So your